Pierce, I have a different view. Lindy's one person. She made her choice. She's going to have to answer for herself. If she's truthful, MAGA will embrace her. If not, they'll reject it. They're not dummies. I don't believe what some people say on the left about MAGA. They're not dumb. They're smart. They're dangerous, but they're smart. To me, my biggest concern is those with big power.
Dean,
yes.
MAGA rejects her. Sorry, Lindy. MAGA rejects you. And frankly, MAGA rejects Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and the rest of the people who decided that there's a more fruitful path towards Mar-a-Lago and the White House now than it was 4 weeks ago.
You are not the gatekeeper.
So yeah, today I want to talk about the Piers Morgan episode of Uncensored from about a week ago. It featured Lindy Lee, who maybe you have heard of. She is a former fundraiser for the DNC, apparently raised millions of dollars for the Kamala campaign. After the election, she has since been very vocal about her disillusionment with the Democrat Party, and at this point she's claims to no longer be a Democrat. Her coming out as being anti-Democrat has caused a lot of controversy because she, for a time, claimed to have voted for Kamala. She also obviously raised a bunch of money for Kamala. I mean, she worked for the Kamala campaign, and obviously that's a fairly recent election that just happened, and people criticize her for seemingly her transition being very quick, a little too quick in some people's minds. How do you raise millions for Kamala and then come out and say you're done with the Democrat Party? I can't speak for Lindy Lee, but obviously walkaway stories are near and dear to my heart. I'm not saying that she's genuine, but her reasoning for having walked away post-election is that one of the big turning points for her, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but I've watched a fair number of interviews with her and her on Piers Morgan several times before this appearance, and she has said that essentially post-election, after the big loss, the Kamala campaign had like a wrap-up Zoom call with fundraisers and maybe some big donors. And essentially, according to her, it was just a lot of patting themselves on the back, really no accountability, no accounting for the billions of dollars that were raised and spent. Where exactly did they go? Why was this loss so big? We were told that she was going to take at least 3 to 4 swing states. She didn't. What the hell happened? Apparently the campaign just did not address that with even the biggest fundraisers and donors. If that's true, which I could certainly see it being true, I could also see that ticking some people off. Now, does that mean that they suddenly go and support Donald Trump? No, not necessarily. But I also don't know if Lindy Lee is like a huge Trump supporter. She doesn't strike me as like a big rah MAGA person. Essentially has just been claiming her disillusionment with the Democrat Party, which honestly makes sense. About a week ago, she was on Piers Morgan again, which is one of my favorite shows. And she was on with Eric Bolling, who is obviously a conservative commentator, a YouTuber. He has a lot of followers, has done a lot of good work. But I was very disappointed with his appearance on the show, which is what we'll get to. She was on with Julie Roginski, who's a Democrat strategist, and this woman is awful. She's got a tight, twisted up face, and she is mean, for lack of a better word. I'm not going to say the word that I really want to say. And then Dean Obadala, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, and he's a progressive radio host, and he was actually kind of fair for a guy that I probably don't agree with. He handled Lindy's appearance on the panel better than Eric Bolling, and certainly better than Julie, but Julie's not on my side. But I want to address why this is not the way you react to someone who says that they walked away from the Democrat Party. And I'm going to go through it clip by clip, but I'm going to tell you right now, what I'm a proponent of is proceeding with cautious optimism. Be cautiously optimistic when someone says that they are no longer part of the Democrat Party. You don't need to make them your best friend. You don't need to make them your maid of honor. You don't need to platform them if that's what you don't want to do. You don't need to look to them as a beacon of MAGA or conservatism. You don't need to do any of that. But you also don't need to tear them down. You don't need to put them on trial, which is essentially what happened to Lindy Lee in this episode of Piers Morgan. I'm not sure why she didn't put a stop to it, or Piers Morgan didn't put a stop to it. And you don't need to just make them completely unwelcome. Proceed with cautious optimism, because you know what? If you're wrong about this person, what kind of damage are you doing? And really, if you're so vindictive, aren't you pretty much like the left? Aren't you exactly the thing that you are fighting against? Proceed with cautious optimism. You never know. And yes, this woman just supported Kamala, and yes, that does seem like a pretty quick transition. I absolutely understand the wariness, but I do not understand the being so quick to tear someone down and claim that they are just like a spy for the Democrat Party. I really don't understand that. At the end of all this, I will address the controversy that came out a couple days after this episode aired, which is about a tweet that Lindy sent out in November. So I am going to get to that because I know some people are going to have comments on that, but sit tight because we're coming to that. So to the first clip I want to address.
Well, I'm looking at this panel, Pierce, and it's it leans left, let's call it that way. And I'm up for the fight. Let's do it. Let's bring it on. I'm used to panels like this. Julie,
I think you'll find that Lindy has drunk the conservative Kool-Aid since you last saw her.
Eric, yeah. I'm not sure if you remember, but just a few weeks ago, you retweeted an attack on me.
Oh, I like this start. Come on, what was that about?
Oh, no,
yeah, you did.
I'll tell you exactly what it was.
You remember?
Be very, very careful. Yes, of course I do. I remember. I said that I believe you could be a Trojan horse. I believe that someone who spent the better part of the last election supporting Biden and Kamala Harris all of a sudden sees the light after Donald Trump wins an election. I mean, you're not that much different from Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and the rest of them. But I think we should all be careful. You're a busy
guy, Eric. So I don't blame you for not paying attention on media appearances. But I've been criticizing Biden well before Election Day. I raised concerns, and that's why I faced blowback from the Democratic Party.
I've been pretty much MAGA since the day one, and as someone who I think speaks for a lot of MAGA folks, I recommend we just be very wary of the folks that are late to the game. They're not welcome.
Hey,
You're welcome.
I know that I have a lot to prove, but give me a chance to prove that. Don't shut the door. I have a lot to offer, and you're not going to find a harder worker. I'm already working hard to make sure that we nail the midterms because this is absolutely pivotal. We can't go back to woke and the trans insanity. I am done with that.
I mean, it's an interesting thing, Eric, isn't it? Because I mean, I if I were you, I would feel equally not smug's not the right word, but equally like, hang on, I was there from the start supporting Trump and the MAGA movement. Now you've got all these people trotting down to Mar-a-Lago or making these huge conversions on the political Damascene conversion road. And I think you're right to probably be a little bit skeptical. Not of Lindy. I've on a few times. I'm not saying for a moment, Lindy, you're not.
I'm a nice one, Eric. And I don't want anything.
So allow me, Lindy. Allow me. Let me ask you. So there are all these tech bros, as I mentioned, Jeff Bezos, even Elon Musk came over. Mark Zuckerberg and the others that came, and then this HB1 visa issue came up, and all of a sudden the tech bros departed from their support of conservative, support of MAGA, and certainly support of Trump's original stakeout on it. And so my point is, well, be careful because they're saying. They're spending a lot of money at Trump's inauguration, and Melania's got a $40 million epic deal with Amazon. That's great, but just be careful because you flip this way, I can see you flipping back the other way.
Eric,
can I just say, I agree with Eric.
Stuck with me.
You're
stuck with me. I'm a conservative now. I've crossed my river Rubicon.
Don't trust them. Eric's right. Don't try.
You see, just guns blazing. I don't think that is necessary. This woman might be truthful. I'm not saying she is, but she might be truthful. I watched her on the Sean Ryan show. She was on about 2 weeks ago, and she named names. She dropped information. And I think it's information that could get her into a lot of trouble. I have no doubt that this woman has burned a lot of bridges at the DNC. And does that mean she's genuine? No, not necessarily. But give her a fair shake. Don't jump on her right away just because she supported Kamala. To be honest, I can't imagine supporting Kamala. Not only does she have bad policy, but she's stupid. She cannot speak. I have a lot of questions about how did you not see that? How could you support Kamala? But also, I supported Hillary. And now I have questions for my old self of like, how did you not see that? How could you support her? So I do have some questions for Lindy. I would be curious about, okay, how did you support Kamala? But it does not mean that she's not turning over a new leaf now and being genuine. It does not mean that she's not seeing the error of her ways and being genuine. It does not necessarily mean that. So I agree with him to be careful. I agree with that. But I don't agree with everything else he's saying because he's saying, be careful, maybe a Trojan horse. Oh, not that you're not welcome. Of course you're welcome. And it's like, well, you're not welcoming her. You're not being very welcoming clearly she's not welcome according to you. So let's just be honest and say what we really want to say. You're not welcome. It's not a competition about who's been MAGA since day one. I admire the people who saw the good in Donald Trump from the very beginning and have been with him since he came down the escalator. I think that's awesome. But it's not about, oh, I've been here longer than you, because you could just as easily look at it from the flip side of, wow, I've been here since he came down the escalator, and look at how many people we brought into the fold. Look at how we've become the big tent. Look at how many people didn't vote for him in 2016 but voted for him in 2020. Didn't vote for him in 2016 or 2020 but voted for him in 2024. And I've been here to witness all that, and what a pleasure, what a privilege that has been. So you could just as easily frame it that way as opposed to, oh, I've been here since the beginning and you haven't. I don't think that's necessary. A few more things on this. I think Lindy's too nice. Lindy, if you're watching this, you're too nice. Just own your story. This whole thing devolves for about 45 minutes of the show. I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing, obviously, where it's just like they're putting her on trial. Don't let them do that. Just own your story. If you're genuine, you're genuine. The truth will play out in due time. You don't have to apologize for anything. I understand why people have questions. Answer them as honestly as you can. Don't be so hesitant, but just own it. Last few things, I don't really think it's fair to bring in the tech bros and the billionaires. That's not really a truthful comparison to Lindy and what happened here. So I'm not sure why we're trying to draw weird parallels here. And then he says, if you flipped that way, I can see you flipping back the other way. And this is something that annoys me. It's not being inconsistent. It's not flip-flopping if you just change your mind. It's normal to change your mind. That's what we all do, hopefully, as we grow and mature and have new experiences and get new information. It's flip-flopping and it's being inconsistent if you go back and forth. And we never know what you're going to think from one day to the next or 1 month to the next. You just keep kind of going back and forth. You're sometimes you're a Democrat and sometimes you're a Republican or whatever it is. It doesn't have to just be about politics. That's a really, in my view, unfair characterization because she maybe changed her mind genuinely. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm proud of the fact that I was able to genuinely change my mind. And now I've been here since 2020. I supported Donald Trump in 2020, and I have become a significant voice in this movement. And I don't mean I'm famous. What I mean is that I have devoted countless hours, basically every single day since I walked away. I have lost friendships, I've lost relationships, I've lost jobs and opportunities over this. I have sacrificed a lot to speak out. I know that people have found value in my content and in my videos. I'm proud of where I come from because I probably wouldn't be as passionate as I am if I didn't have the story that I had. Because I bought into the lies of the Democrat Party, I have so much more passion now, and I can also get inside the mind of a Democrat and understand it in ways that maybe someone else can't. So maybe she just changed her mind. You know, that happens, and it doesn't mean that she's gonna go back and we have to treat her like she's a Trojan horse. Come on.
I'm happy to bestow undying gratitude to Eric Bolling, who I used to sit next to on The Five and other shows at Fox for a long time, and I can tell you he was MAGA from the very beginning. He stuck by it through thick and thin. When Trump was in, when Trump was out, Eric, you were always MAGA. And I would say I would be a little suspicious of people who would have been with Kamala Harris had she won the election, but suddenly, as soon as somebody else comes into power, they suddenly flip and decide they're going to support Donald Trump. So I do agree, Eric. Say what you will about you. You and I don't agree on anything, but you were misguided about MAGA from the very beginning, and you stuck by it. And I'm very suspicious. I am very suspicious of people who suddenly flit to power like moth to a flame, because I'm positive, Lindy, that if Kamala Harris had won, you would be here defending her to the hilt.
Julie, there are some things that I did not know before Election Day. Wait a minute. For example, we had no idea that they lied to us about the 3 to 4 battleground states that we were supposed to win. That's what they told us, to get us to go out there and ask for friends. Don't be skeptical. That's what they told us.
So smug. This woman is so smug. I understand that Eric Bolling and Julie, apparently used to work together. They have some kind of relationship, and maybe it's like a kind of friendly ribbing little rivalry. But it should give you pause, Eric Bolling, that this woman who is a smug progressive who probably voted for Kamala, probably proudly supports Kamala to this day, wishes Kamala would have won, that this woman is egging you on in being so aggressive towards Lindy. Because obviously this woman doesn't want MAGA to succeed. She doesn't want MAGA to become the big tent. So of course she's gonna tear down someone who's an apostate from her own side. Like, obviously she's going to do that. But why are you also doing that? Lindy might be genuine, and we don't want to tear down walkaways from the Democrat Party. We want to welcome them. We want to give it time. We want to use discernment to see if they are actually genuine. We should not be blindly jumping on people and then siding with progressives as we do it, because progressives want us to lose. Progressives hate apostates from their side. So that should give us pause to be like, okay, wait, I'm on this panel and there's two progressives and they're agreeing with me. And we're all attacking this woman who says she used to be a Democrat and is no longer a Democrat. Like, should I be doing that? If I'm not a Democrat, should I be included in that? Like, you should have a little bit of critical thinking here. And maybe, again, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Maybe. Proceed with caution. And again, I think it's completely fair what Lindy says, that there were some things I didn't know before the election. I think that's fair, especially given her story about the wrap-up call and how disappointing it was and how there were no answers, no accountability. And then it came out, they raised all this money and then they were in debt after the election and they were still trying to raise money. And then, celebrities weren't paid, but actually they were paid to interview her or to make appearances. And then it came out that they had been saying that they had internal polling that was actually all a lie. They never thought she was going to take the swing states, but they were telling the campaign that she was. Stuff did come out after the election. And again, I understand the wariness. I understand having questions, but it's not as if Lindy's story is just like completely, oh my God, this would never happen. Again, I have questions of like, how can you support Kamala? But I also look at this as someone who supported Hillary Clinton and don't know now how I could have done that. But I had these blinders on. When you are part of the Democrat Party, it is like a cult. And a lot of it is fueled by emotion and feelings. And a lot of it is fueled by guilt tripping. And a lot of it is fueled by fear mongering over Donald Trump and the MAGA extremists. And if you have any kind of criticism or if you ask any kind of questions, you are completely shunned. It is frowned upon. That is what I experienced during COVID and during the BLM unrest in 2020. And so once those blinders start to come down, it's like the scales fall away from your eyes and you can suddenly see much more clearly than you could see before. That is a genuine thing that happens. I have experienced it. And so again, I'm not saying trust Lindy Lee with your child, but I'm also saying don't jump on her, especially in a panel surrounded by two progressives who are also jumping on her. Like, take a step back and just give it some time. Proceed with caution. Proceed with cautious optimism. Please. This is what we should do because a lot of people right now are disillusioned with the Democrat Party.
I voted for Bob Casey. I didn't vote for president. I just couldn't because I'm just so disgusted.
Well, let's get a reaction.
I was so disgusted by the Democratic Party that I couldn't bring myself to vote for any of them.
Just stop speaking for a second. You voted for Bob Casey, who is a member of the Democratic Party, which is the party that
who's one of the most conservative members, who's pro-life, famously pro-life.
I know exactly, sweetheart. I have a house in Pennsylvania. I actually campaigned for Bob Casey.
If you're going to talk like that to me, please don't sweetheart me very much.
So I'm not. Listen to me because you have to stop speaking for a second. Let me be very clear with you. You were
just go back and look at Eric Bolling's face if you missed it during that clip. He is just really enjoying the way Julie is treating Lindy Lee. And again, that makes no sense because at this point, Lindy Lee has just admitted that she did not vote for either Trump or Kamala. That's actually good for us. If it's true, it's good for us because clearly, okay, she was having the wheels churning and she didn't actually give her vote to Kamala. Now, again, I understand there's the issue of she was working for the Kamala campaign and she raised millions of dollars. I get it. I get the hesitation. I get the wariness. But what I don't get is Eric Bolling sitting on this panel cheering on Julie, a Democrat strategist who's very smug, very rude, very unkind, very unforgiving, as she points out that, okay, Linda, you didn't vote for Kamala, but you voted for Bob Casey, who's a Democrat, who's the party that you just claim you left. That's a good thing for us. I have a history of Democrat voting too. And now I'm on your side, you guys. Now I'm a Republican. Now I'm a conservative. Now I'm a Trump supporter. That's a good thing. You like that. You like that I have a history of voting Democrat and now I don't vote Democrat anymore. That's something that we should be celebrating. I understand the hesitation because, again, this election seemingly just happened. Obviously, it's now been several months, but it feels like it just happened and it is very recent. I get the hesitation. But again, what I don't get is the vindictiveness, the just being like gleefully rabid to catch her in a lie or to catch her in some kind of fumble. I don't understand that coming from anyone who's not currently a Democrat, anyone who's not currently a progressive. If you are a conservative or a Republican, the only good way to handle this is cautious optimism. That's the only good way, because it works out for you either way. If she's lying, okay, you didn't become bosom buddies with her. But if she's telling the truth, you didn't needlessly alienate her and just push her back to the other side or to be politically homeless or something like that. You got an ally. You got another soldier in this war. We won a huge victory. We won a battle, but the war is not over. And when you're in a war, you're not really in a position to be like, oh, we're good on soldiers. I don't want you. I don't like your history. You sinned on Tuesday, so we don't need you to fight for us. Really? We're in a war. You want the soldiers. You want the manpower. You want as many allies and people on your side as you can get. Genuine allies, I understand that. That's why you use discernment and you give it time. And you don't just jump on a bandwagon and tell someone that they are persona non grata because they voted for Kamala. What? What if she genuinely changed her mind and now she's on our side? We should be cautiously optimistic for that. We should be hopeful for that.
We don't agree. Let me finish speaking. I was very quiet when you spoke. Let me finish speaking. Eric and I don't agree on much.
Interrupted me.
Eric and I don't agree on much. We have completely diametrically opposed views. So if I suddenly said to Eric today, Eric, I am going to campaign for MAGA, and everything that you've been saying for the last 15, 20 years that I've known you, Eric Bolling, you have been right on everything. Eric would rightly say, Julie, you sat next to me on TV show after TV show and we argued. I know where your heart has been. What has changed? And if I said to Eric, you know what? People went on social media and called me the C word and called me the B word. You know what Eric would do? And Eric, I don't want to speak for you. I think you'd laugh at me. Because you'd say, are you really throwing away every single thing that you stood for because some randos were mean to you on Twitter?
Eric Bolling probably would laugh if Julie or if anyone else who was a lifelong Democrat came to him and said, I think I'm no longer a Democrat. But the point of this video is that that is not the correct reaction, okay? That's not a good reaction. It doesn't benefit us in any way to laugh when someone says they're no longer a Democrat after being a Democrat for a lifetime and campaigning and fundraising and voting a certain way, because they might be genuine. They might be genuine. And now we're laughing at them saying, no, you're still a Democrat. No, you're not going to throw everything away, right? You work so hard for that. What? We want them on our side. The whole point is to get people on our side. And we can't sit here and say, no, I'm sorry, you voted Democrat too many times or you voted Democrat too recently. We can't accept you. Again, I know, broken record, but cautious optimism. I'm not saying believe everything anyone says the minute they say I'm no longer a Democrat. But do not immediately tear them down. Do not laugh at them. Do not say, no, you're still a Democrat. You put so much work into it. The whole point is that we want people who were genuinely Democrats and put a lot of work into it and put a lot of campaigning and put a lot of money into it and put a lot of votes towards that. We want them over to our side. We want them to put all of that passion, all of that campaigning, all of that fundraising over on our side. That's the whole point. So the correct response, whether it's Julie or anyone else who comes to you and says, I'm no longer a Democrat, I think I might actually be a Trump supporter. The correct response is not laughter. I can't believe that this needs to be said, and I can't believe that this didn't like click for Eric at any point during the panel, that maybe he shouldn't be agreeing so much with a progressive who is still probably a proud Kamala supporter and is very much anti-MAGA, anti-Trump, anti-everything that we stand for. A lot of people are walking away from the Democrat Party right now. And there will be a lot of people who voted for Kamala who will walk away in the next few months and the next few years. How are we going to react to that? Isn't that exactly what we want?
To me, my biggest concern is those with big power.
Dean,
yes.
MAGA rejects her. Sorry, Lindy. MAGA rejects you. And frankly, MAGA rejects Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and the rest of the people who decided that there's a more fruitful path towards Mar-a-Lago and the White House now than it was 4 weeks ago.
You are not the gatekeeper of MAGA. No one appointed you. I don't like St. Peter by the pearly gate.
There it is again. That's what Eric wanted to say the whole time. He was kind of like tiptoeing around it in the beginning. Not that you're not welcome, but you know, you might be a Trojan horse, but really what he means is you're not welcome. It's insane in a single panel to say, not that you're not welcome, you're welcome, and then 20 minutes later to say MAGA rejects you. That's insane. A little schizo. And I lost, honestly, so much respect for Eric Bolling in this panel because, number one, not only is that not the correct way to respond to someone who might be a genuine walkaway, but secondly, he doesn't speak for MAGA. And I was really pleased to find, and I'm going to link it in the description below because I want you to watch the original episode. It's not easy to watch because, like I said, it's 45 minutes of basically just putting Lindy to the grinder. And I don't know how this panel turned into that because clearly that's not what the discussion was supposed to be that day. Editor Natalie just jumping in here as I edit. I did want to add this little tidbit. I thought it was interesting that Piers Morgan tweeted this out shortly after the episode, that the questioning had gone on too long and that was his fault. And I 100% agree that the questioning went on too long. It was hard to watch, and that's not why she was invited on. That's not why any of them were invited on. I just don't think it was necessary. So this is Piers even admitting maybe we could have cut it a little bit short. I agree. And I don't think it was ultimately a fruitful discussion, but I want you to watch it and look at the comments. Most of the comments are on my side in the fact that Lindy is welcome. And again, I'm not saying you need to welcome her blindly, but you should proceed with cautious optimism. You should be optimistic that she is telling the truth. You do not say out of hand that MAGA rejects her because, number one, you are not MAGA. MAGA is the big tent. We are diverse now, which is the entire point. We have so many people on our side, which is why we just had this huge victory. So clearly you don't speak for all those people. We're not a hive mind, unlike the left. We are allowed to have different opinions. So just on that fact alone, it's outrageous to say MAGA rejects her because you're not MAGA. Secondly, it's not the correct response. It's not the right response to have towards someone who may have genuinely changed their mind. And if you are wrong that she's lying, she's a Trojan horse, if you're wrong about that, what kind of damage did you maybe do? Did you lose an ally? Did you lose someone who maybe could have raised millions of dollars? Again, Lindy Lee was on the Sean Ryan show and she did drop a lot of names. She did drop a lot of information. I'm worried about her a little bit. I'm praying for her. Either way, I'm praying for her. But she gave a lot of names and a lot of information to Sean Ryan. And I'm not saying that means she's 100% genuine, but clearly she has sacrificed for this. So let her be for a while. Let time pass. Let's see. And I'm glad she's getting a lot of love in the comments of the original video. And she was just interviewed by Laura Trump, which I think is great. MAGA is a very welcoming group of people. That's what I found when I walked away. And I didn't jump from I'm no longer a Democrat to now I'm a conservative Christian. That happened over time. But I did jump fairly quickly to I'm no longer a Democrat to I'm voting for Trump because I walked away in summer 2020. And then by November of that year, early November, obviously, I was voting for Trump. So that change was quick. Everything else was gradual. I came into my beliefs slowly on my own, but I did kind of pivot from Democrat to Trump supporter fairly quickly, and that was completely genuine. Just like give it time and let it grow. Let's see what happens.
Julie's right. Everywhere that will host you, you'll go on CNN, MSNBC, Fox. You're all over Fox saying what a great, pro-Trump MAGA personality you are right now because you're getting booked all over the place. Give it a minute.
Hold on, I never once said I was MAGA, to be honest. I've never even used that word, so I don't know why.
Well, Trump is MAGA. Let's be honest. Trump is MAGA, period, full stop.
Most of my hits have been my criticisms of Democrats, to be honest. I don't think I've ever been on one
just going to get booked because you're the Democrat who's criticizing other Democrats. It's very bookable, very clickable, in fact. But as someone on the inside of the movement for a long time,
and I happen to have a lot to say. I have donors who are terrified of speaking out. I have a duty of care to say what the heck went wrong with the campaign because it was a fucking disaster. It was a disaster.
Well, that's different. Now that is commendable. Now there's a Democrat saying we screwed up. We need to find out what we did wrong, come back stronger, and beat them. That would be admirable.
I think, Lindy, hang on, Lindy. I think the point Eric is making, which is a strong one and a valid one, I think, which is you could have done all this criticism of the Democrats whilst remaining a Democrat.
This is absolutely insane to me, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, please. Because it sounds to me like Eric Bolling is encouraging Lindy Lee to remain a Democrat and to reform her party from the inside, figure out what they did wrong in the last election, come back stronger, and then beat the Republicans. Is that really what we want to be encouraging her to do? Number one, I don't think the Democrat Party is capable of reform. I do not think it's possible, and I think Lindy Lee realized that. Took her a long time to realize it. Took me a long time to realize it. Took me till 2020. And I think a lot of Democrats are still kind of holding on to this like JFK Democrat Party that is not coming back. And so it's not reformable. But second of all, why are we as MAGA, as conservatives, saying it would have been commendable for you to stay in the Democrat Party, still call yourself a Democrat, and reform the party from the inside and then help them win in the future? That's not what we want. That's not what we want. I just don't understand what the rationale was on this panel, especially coming from Eric Bolling. He also says something else. He says, prove yourself first. He has this idea that she's been out there too much and you've got to prove yourself first. And to that I would say, what do you do to prove yourself? Who's the MAGA committee? Apparently it's just Eric Bolling. Who's the MAGA committee that you submit an application to? How do you prove yourself? And how long does it take for you to prove yourself? It seems like Eric is suggesting that she should just remain quiet for a certain period of time and then maybe we'll believe her and welcome her in the future. And I disagree with that. We need people to speak out. We need people to go public. We need people who were on the inside of the Democrat Party to be critical of the Democrat Party. And honestly, the most compelling walkaway stories to me, I love everyone who's walked away from the Democrat Party ever. Doesn't matter if it was 40 years ago. But the most compelling stories to me, for obvious reasons, are the stories of people who walked away most recently. Honestly, I perk up when I hear that someone voted Biden and now they're no longer a Democrat, because to me that's so interesting. Okay, what specifically caused you to change your mind in the past 4 years? So I do think that you have to strike while the iron is hot. That doesn't mean she's making money off this. Maybe she has a book deal. Maybe we'll see that in the future, and maybe it turns out this was all just a big ploy for money. But I know that on a lot of these appearances she's had, when she goes on the Sean Ryan show, she's not paid. You're not paid to go on Fox oftentimes. And so I do think, again, she has burned a lot of bridges, and I think that if she is genuine, again, if, this is the time to tell the story, because this is what we want. We want people who saw the light, who voted for Hillary, who voted for Biden, and who voted for Kamala. So I don't know that she has to do some kind of penance or like fade into oblivion and go to a monastery and then, maybe we'll welcome her into MAGA in like a year. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's acceptable. I'll be honest with you. When I see that someone just recently walked away after me, and then they're all over Fox or they're on all these shows and podcasts that I would like to be on, I do feel a tinge of jealousy. I do. I didn't walk away for money or for fame or anything, but my growth in terms of people hearing my story has been very, very, very slow. I was not immediately on Fox News after walking away. And so, yeah, the petty part of me, I do feel a little bit like, okay, you just walked away. You voted Biden, you voted Kamala, and you're now on Fox News. And it's like, I do wish, I wish that were me. But that's the petty part of me. And the bigger part of me, who wants to win and who wants what's best for the country, believes that it doesn't matter who it is that's up there. It doesn't matter how recently they walked away. If they are genuine, it's good. It's good for us. It does not matter. And so I do reject this idea that you have to prove yourself. And arguably, her going on the Sean Ryan podcast and naming names and dropping intel, maybe that's a little bit of proving herself. It's an easy thing to say, oh, prove yourself, but what does it actually mean? And I don't think that people who say it have actually really thought it through. And I also just think it's crazy that he's encouraging her to stay Democrat and reform the party from the inside. That's completely crazy. So shortly after this aired, I think it was 2 days after, Lindy Lee went viral again because Piers Morgan called her out publicly. Someone had found an old tweet of hers that said that she had voted for Kamala. She had tweeted out in November, I just cast my ballot for Kamala. And obviously, she had just admitted on the Piers Morgan show 2 days prior that she did not vote for Kamala. So clearly she is lying somewhere. And then she apparently deleted the tweet, which I do admit is not a good look. I think that once a past problematic tweet has gone viral and gained public attention, I think you just have to own it. Again, I think you have to own it and come clean. Don't delete stuff once it's already risen to the public eye again. So I admit that's not a good look, but here's the thing. I don't think that that is as damning as people are making it out to be, because it seems like she lied when she tweeted out that she voted for Kamala. That seems to be the lie. I don't think when she said on the Piers Morgan show that she actually voted for Bob Casey, I don't think that was a lie, because it's clear that she doesn't want to say it. She kind of allows herself to be pressured into saying it, which again, Lindy, you need to grow a backbone. Just own it, girl, own it. If you don't want to answer a question, don't answer. Be as honest as possible, but if someone is pressuring you to say something you don't want to say, don't say it. It seems to me the lie was the tweet. And yeah, it's not a good look. It's not a good look that she lied to the people who follow her, to her fellow Democrats, to the people she raised money off of, and said, I just cast my ballot for Kamala if she didn't. That's a terrible look. But let's be honest, who among us hasn't lied? None of us. We have all lied. When I look at people tweeting about this, especially the day that it dropped, it was just a lot of self-righteousness coming from my side. And it's a little hypocritical because a lot of people have lied. I'm not saying that means lying is good or, again, that we should blindly trust her. But it's possible that she has now turned over a new leaf. It is possible. Because, again, that was a lie from November. Again, not a good lie, not something that we like, but maybe she's turned over a new leaf. There are people who had their last drink yesterday or in November and are getting clean. You have to start somewhere. Like maybe she has decided that moving forward she's going to be truthful. Maybe that's why she admitted on the Piers Morgan show, even though she knew it wasn't a good look for her and that she would be attacked from both sides, and indeed she was. Maybe that's why she admitted who she actually voted for on the Piers Morgan show and the fact that she didn't vote for Kamala. Maybe all of this is her turning over a new leaf. Again, I understand how it's not a good look that she lied in November, but I don't understand why people are piling on as if like none of us have lied, or as if that means, oh, we can't trust anything she says. No. It might just mean that she lied in November and now she's coming clean no matter what the cost. It could mean that. Again, that's why I'm saying cautious optimism. Give it time. Use discernment. Allow the story to breathe a little bit and just see. You don't have to become her best friend. You don't have to platform her, even though, again, she was just on Laura Trump. You don't have to have her be RNC chair. You don't have to do any of these things. But you can allow the story time to breathe and determine slowly over time through observation whether this woman might be genuine. You do not need to dogpile on her. What I see is a lot of conservatives, a lot of people who I like and who I admire on my side, just like dogpiling on her. And it's the same thing that happens when, say, a OnlyFans hooker decides that she's no longer going to do OnlyFans and that she's been saved by Christ. And what I see is a lot of Christians who don't believe her and say, no, 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 you're a liar. You're not saved. Once a hooker, always a hooker. The antithesis of what we're supposed to do, especially as Christians, but just it's not wise. It's foolish. It's destructive. There has to be a path for redemption for people. And we should be not gleefully rabid for them to stumble. We want them to be on our side. We want them to be Christians. We want them to be conservatives. So we should be praying and hoping that they're truthful and they're not stumbling. And where we can, we should be lifting them up, at least in prayer. But so often I see the complete opposite. And not only is it not what God calls us to do, I understand people watching this might not be a believer, but it's also foolish towards our ends. Because at the end of the day, the entire goal is for people to wake up, to walk away, and to come over on our side. That is what we want. And it's never too late. As long as we have a country called the United States of America and we have not lost it, which I do believe we were close to doing and maybe still are. And as long as you're still alive and I'm still alive, it's not too late. So stop playing God. God decides when it's too late, not you. Not Eric Bowling, not anyone else. God decides when it's too late. As long as you're still breathing, there is always a path to redemption. And I love stories about people who were recent supporters of the Democrat Party and are now no longer supporting it. And you should love them too. Those are my thoughts on the Lindy Lee controversy. I do hope that maybe it gives some people pause in how you react to people. I think in the age of social media, just everyone is so quick to want to dogpile on and to want to catch someone in a lie, to want to take someone down, tear them down. And I don't want us to be like that. I don't think it's how you win, because again, we're still in a war. And by that, I don't mean obviously a hot war, thank God, but we are fighting for the future of our country. And I think that it's completely and utterly foolish for us to tear down people who are would-be allies and who are asking to fight alongside us. Okay, so I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this one. I know it's probably going to be a little bit of a controversial one. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and also let me know what else you want to see covered on this channel. I'm here for you guys, and I will see you next time.